Welcome once again, internets, to Generally Nerdy. I am Generally Nerdy. This is my channel. Trying something new this time with the filming. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is your week in Nerdom. And this is going to cover 2 weeks because I was so late with getting the last one out that I kind of missed a whole week. So my apologies, but I do have, I've got a lot of stuff to cover, so cue the music.
Generally Nerdy.
So, again, thank you for watching. Website is generallynerdy.net. Let's get to the stuff, because it's going to take us a while to talk about all this. First off, Reboot Universe, I don't know what strange alternate reality we're living in right now, but why does everything need to be remade? There's a Fly reboot in the works, which is already in and of itself a reboot, so that's kind of weird. They're talking about remaking The Matrix. People have already started writing treatments for a new Matrix movie. I don't know if the Wachowskis have anything to do with that. I know Warner Brothers owns the rights to it, so probably not. But I just don't understand why everything needs to be rebooted. They're cinema gems for a reason. Sometimes they get a little dated, but that just doesn't make any sense to me. So there's also a Spawn reboot. Again, the movie wasn't the best, but I just don't understand it. And then Spider-Man Homecoming is technically a reboot, and everything is just getting redone. You could recast a movie and have that same story continue into something else, and you can still fix it even. Whatever. I don't get why everything needs to be remade. But then I do understand sequels, where everything, and also the other cool thing that's happening now that's along the lines of reboot, but is more like a sequel. I forget who coined the phrase. It's definitely not me. Of a Lega sequel. Lega sequels work. We've learned this with Creed. We've learned this with Star Wars. These are things that make sense. These are things that fans want to see. So Lega sequel is the way to go. Reboot, I don't buy it. In comic books, the way we've learned as comic book fans to accept a new look for a existing character should be translatable to the screen. We should be able to see somebody new playing a role, like Hugh Jackman with Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is no longer going to be Wolverine, but somebody eventually will be Wolverine. Well, that is too big of a character for them to not recast. So somebody will be recast. We will accept it because it's going to be a continuing story instead of just, this is a new origin story for a character we already know and love. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, remakes and reboots should some movies be off limits? Yeah, I feel like some movies should be off limits. Why would you want to sour your good reputation? Why would you want to sully your name as such? It doesn't make sense to redo The Matrix. Doesn't make sense to redo The Fly. I don't get it. Hollywood, what are you doing? Now, what a sequel does, it expands the universe for a character we already know and love. Potentially reintroduces us to a character we already knew, but with a different actor. So sequels are a thing that we can do. That's what they did with Civil War. It reintroduced us to Spider-Man. It gave us a little glimpse of his origins, but we already know Spider-Man's origins so many times over. Uncle Ben's tired of dying at this point. So sequels are the way to do it. And with sequel news, we've got Suicide Squad 2. David Ayer left. He's not gonna do Suicide Squad 2. I forget. Some kid named Adam Kozad something is doing the new the sequel to Suicide Squad, and he's writing. The director, though, they're talking to Mel Gibson to direct Suicide Squad. Not exactly the first person I think of when I think of superhero movies. Like, I don't get it. But if that's really who they're courting to direct Suicide Squad 2, maybe it'll be awesome. Who knows? Deadpool 2, that's gonna be great. If Fox Marvel continues with their ongoing lucky streak, they're doing fantastically. If they can maintain that, then then Deadpool 2 is going to be awesome. Ryan Reynolds at least just announced either somebody they've officially cast for Domino or the person he's gonna try really hard to cast for Domino. And it is, I'm gonna consult my notes, so give me a moment. Zazie Beetz. She's in Atlanta with Donald Glover, a show I don't watch. I would like to. I used to live near Atlanta, so I'm sure it's great. It's been getting great critical acclaim. Donald Glover's awesome. So if he trusts her on his show and Ryan Reynolds is stalking her to some degree, then who knows? Maybe it's going to be awesome. I'm not familiar with her acting ability. And she looks like, Domino is going to be covered in makeup anyway because that's just the nature of the character. So the skin tone is whatever. I don't know how tall she is. I feel like Domino is pretty comparable in height to Deadpool, so it might be a little weird physically, because I'm sure this girl seems she's about Donald Glover's height, and Ryan Reynolds is super tall, so whatever. The physicality might be the only issue, but if she's going to knock it out of the park, she's going to knock it out of the park, and there's nothing I can say about that. Though, they did also lose their director. Not only did David Ayer leave Suicide Squad, but I can't remember the name of the director that did Deadpool. The guy that Kevin Smith called a kid, even though he's been in the business forever. Anyway, he left, and now they have David Leitch, something. The guy who does the John Wick movies. They have him as the director for Deadpool 2. I don't know if they've announced a director for X-Force, but X-Force is happening, and X-Force is also going to be an R-rated Fox Marvel movie. And so, again, if they can continue this momentum, then by all means, keep them coming. Let's rock this until Ryan Reynolds is too old to be Deadpool, because I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, and I know he loves the character because he walked out of his mother's vagina to play Deadpool. Walked out of his mother's vagina to be Deadpool. So, that's a thing. And if they can keep that momentum, if they can keep up that story, then more sequel stuff. Jurassic World. If you saw Jurassic Park and you saw Jurassic Park 2, you don't need to see the rest of the Jurassic Park / Jurassic World movies. They keep remaking. It's like I've made this equation with bands in the past. Godsmack made a pretty good initial album, and then they just kept making that same album over and over. Five Finger Death Punch currently, same thing. They made a decent, introduction with their first album, but just keep redoing that same album. It was good the first time, it's going to be good again, right? I don't buy it. And that's kind of how I look at the Jurassic Park sequels and such, is like, it's the same movie over and over and over. tell me an original story. Bring me something. I don't know what that original story is, but Jurassic World was not it. Jurassic World was rehashing everything we got from the first Jurassic Park movies. So Jurassic World 2, probably going to be the same damn thing. Sorry, it's just the way it goes. So I don't think this is a thing we need. I know it's going to make money. That's why they greenlit it, because they have statistics and all these numbers and things, and they know it's going to work, so they know it's going to make them money. It's not going to work. Everyone's going to hate it. People are going to go, it's going to be popcorn fodder, and that's it. So this is not a thing that needs to happen. Whatever. Moving on. Blade Runner 2049. This one is, again, more legacy-sequel than proper sequel, but also not a real reboot. So I'm totally behind Blade Runner. I fucking loved the first movie. I have a couple of the books. Blade Runner's a great story. Ridley Scott, I love you, man. Keep doing this stuff. Because the Alien Covenant, we're going to get to that in a second. Alien Covenant is also Ridley Scott being awesome. Anyway, Edward James Olmos just announced like 4 days ago, that Gaff, his character from the first Blade Runner movie, is going to be in 2049. And, oh my god, how awesome is... Like, alright, so legacy sequels work best when you have somebody to pass the torch over. We already know Harrison Ford's going to be in Blade Runner. We don't know how much he's going to be in it, if he's going to play a predominant role, or if he's just going to have a couple of scenes and then they'll kill him off like they did in Star Wars. We don't know that yet, but we know he's going to be in it. So at least we have one person returning to pass the torch, as it were. Edward James Olmos just announced that Gaff is going to be in it as well to pass the torch. So thank you for doing it right. Like, there's certain Hollywood studios, I feel like, that understand how to do that right. And this is one. So everything that I've been hearing about Blade Runner 2049 has been good things. So I'm counting down until it comes out. Same thing with Dune. Dune, not technically a reboot. Yes, it got made into a movie once. This is one of those movies that is totally fair game. That nobody has any sort of attachment to the movie. There's a little bit of attachment to the TV series, the mini series or movie, or whatever you want to call it. But it's fair game. It hasn't been done properly. Let's do this. Let's remake this. Let's do this proper. I don't know if a movie is the best way to do Dune, because Dune is so epic and sprawling. Unless they're going to do a movie series, then yeah, have at it. Probably a better way to have gone about Dune, though, would have been Netflix, HBO, somebody like that, turning it into a 12-hour series, and then we get, the first 5 books. Who knows? Hopefully, it will do well enough that we can get a sequel out of it, and we can see more of the books. But either way, it's going to be Dune on the big screen, and it's going to make $1 million. It's going to make $1 billion, let's say. Totally being facetious. It's going to do well because of the Herbert name, because it's Dune, because they've tried so many times and failed so horribly. Everybody wants to see if this is going to be the one that happens. And in my head, it's going to be the one that happens. The reason I say that is because they just got a director. The director of The Arrival, Denis Villeneuve? French dude, made The Arrival. The Arrival was phenomenal. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. Just so much awesome movie news that we should keep rolling. Gambit is still a thing. Who knew? We'll find out when it's going to happen. It still has Channing Tatum attached to it. I want to see it happen. Maybe Gambit is Channing Tatum's Deadpool, what Deadpool was to Ryan Reynolds. Maybe that's the equation that we can draw. Because Channing Tatum wanted it so bad. He was out on stage at freaking Comic-Con because he's going to be Gambit. So that is still somehow in the works. Lord knows when we're going to see it, but it's been a thing, and it's going to continue to be a thing. And Crossing fingers, let's hope it's great. More sequels. Avatar 2 got pushed back. It's no longer going to come out next Christmas. It was going to be Christmas 2018. Not going to happen now. Got pushed back indefinitely. Lord knows when and why. And then, next up, we're going to Disney. Disney Marvel, been doing great things. Disney Lucasfilms, also doing great things. Disney on their own properties, though, hit and miss. Beauty and the Beast is coming out this weekend. Actually, today being Wednesday, it comes out tomorrow for all intents and purposes. Looks like it should be pretty great, though Sleeping Beauty, 2 years ago, was not. I feel like they really missed the mark. So what they're doing right now is instead of re-releasing into a new format their movies so that they can maintain the rights, they're refilming the movies. Instead of it being an animated movie, they're turning it into a live-action movie so that they can maintain the rights of the properties. So, like, from a business standpoint, that's why this is happening. I know people are going, why do we need a live-action Beauty and the Beast? Why do we need a live-action Sleeping Beauty? And now they're casting for Aladdin. Why do we need a live-action Aladdin? We kind of don't. And they just did Jungle Book even. Jon Favreau did Jungle Book for him. That one was middle of the road. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It wasn't nearly as good as the original animated version, so whatever. But the business standpoint, that's why they're doing it. They are re-upping their rights so that they'll last for another 50 years or however long they last, the copyright. That's an interesting way to go about it. I'm still kind of on the fence whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully Beauty and the Beast will push me over one side or the other, because I'm going to go see it this weekend, and you will likely get a nerdy review of Beauty and the Beast, the live action, with Hermione for some reason. Anyway, so cross your fingers, hope it's great, hope, this could potentially be the new good thing that Disney's doing. Otherwise, they're just resting on, 100 years of good animation, or they're just resting on the fact that they just acquired Star Wars and Marvel and are making, printing their own money at this point. The $1 bill should have Mickey Mouse's face on it, for crying out loud. So Disney can do no wrong. They make $1 million every 10 seconds. That is what it is. And then, one last movie note. It seems that not only are they completely scrapping the Batman script and starting over, Ben Affleck is still supposed to be Batman. What's-his-toes is still supposed to be directing. But because of the change in director, he's the one who said, no, we're doing this thing. And it was going to be Deadshot. Who knows? Slade Wilson, it was going to be Joe Manganiello. Who knows if that's still going to be the case, but there is talks of Nightwing, and they have approached, if not offered, they've kind of started courting Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead to be Nightwing. So does that mean we get just Nightwing and Batman? Does that mean we get the entire Bat family? Could that potentially mean that they're going to do a Jason Todd story, because they kind of built that up in BVS? That could be a very fantastic thing, a great way for them to make up for the horrendous Batman vs. Superman movie. But yeah, so keep your ears posted on that. That could be fantastic. It could be the best news from Batman since Affleck decided to be it. So, crossing fingers. And I lied, there is one last thing. It seems DC is going to be jumping on the R-rated movie bandwagon. They have said as long as it's the right cast, or it's the right property, to be totally game for an R-rated movie. Is that going to be Gotham City Sirens? Is that going to be the Batman movie? That would make sense in my head. Is it going to be Suicide Squad 2? Also would make sense in my head. Lord only knows. If they do it right, they could potentially come from out of this hole in which they have dug themselves with the last the Superman, Batman vs Superman, all these other god awful movies. Anyway, so really movie heavy this week. I will try and get more music and such for next week. But on the final note for this episode, Game of Thrones just released the season 7 trailer. That means we are so close to getting some sweet Game of Thrones action. Second best show on television, second only to The Walking Dead. And if you watched last week's Walking Dead episode, you know what I'm talking about. Oh man, that was such a great episode. If you have not yet watched last week's Walking Dead episode, if you don't watch The Walking Dead, do yourself a favor. Go buy the DVDs, go on to iTunes and buy the episodes, whatever you need to do to catch up, but you've got a lot of catching up to do, and that is the best damn show on television. But yeah, go watch Game of Thrones trailer for season 7. Season 8 just confirmed to be 6 episodes. So we are like 13 hours away from the end of Game of Thrones, and we are beyond the books at this point. God only knows if George R.R. Martin will release the books in a timely fashion, and if he's even going to stick to the ending that he agreed on with the guys at HBO. But super exciting television news. Iron Fist is getting really mediocre reviews, so hopefully that's not as bad as advertised. But nothing else really going on television-wise. Watch Game of Thrones when it starts. Watch Walking Dead now because you owe it to yourself to watch good television. And as always, thank you for watching. And if you've made it to this far, then you already know. If it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.